everybody, Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Thursday, March the 7th, race number 8 at Oaklawn Park. First level allowance race for 4-year-olds and up, going a mile with the short stretch. Let's take a look at this field, and it is a full one. 12 in the body of the race. The 13 and 14 are also eligibles, and the 3 American bands going to stretch out off a win against condition claimers last time out. This horse just acts like maybe a mile's going to be good for her.
Yeah, I guess it could be, Dan. We'll see how it all works out for this horse, stretching out in distance. Obviously moving up in class as well, off of a really nice win in her most recent start. There's a lot working against this horse for a morning line favorite, though.
She's not the only stretch out sprinter that could add to a solid pace in this race. Several of these fillies and mares have speed. As we take a look at our Timeform US pace projector, note that red bar. Timeform US believes the pace will be fast, and Dream Streak stretching out from the rail figures to be on ascend.
I can see this pace getting pretty heated, Dan. We'll see how everybody decides to play it. Certainly, the 1 should show speed in here. The 3 is stretching out. I didn't really look at her like a confirmed speed, but she could be forward in here. The 6 likes to be forward. This pace could get fast.
Dream Streak, the number 1, should be rounding into her best form. This is her 3rd start off a fairly substantial layoff after 2 sprints over a muddy track. Now, they very rarely stretch her out, but when they did at Oaklawn last year, she was able to sit just off the lead and look pretty good scoring. Maybe a mile's fine. It's all about, does she get to relax and get a breather on the backstretch with other pace entered?
Yeah, exactly. This trainer stretched her out off the claim last time and got a win with a career best buyer in that effort. The only other time they went long with her was at Indiana in August. She ran well again that day too. So maybe the distance isn't a big deal. I think what the biggest drawback for her, Dan, is we've already probably seen enough of her to know what she's capable of. I don't think there's going to be any improvement coming for her. And just about everybody else her main competition towards the outside, they're all faster than she is.
Like the number 1, Dream Streak, the number 2, Tyrona, is stretching out in distance, but she has shown stretching out in distance has not been an issue. She went gate to wire at Thistledown, of all places, last summer, so a mile is within her scope given the right trip and class. She was wired last time out sprinting. The runner-up that day came back to win a $50,000 condition claimer with a 77 buyer. She's going to have to improve a little bit, but she was claimed out of her last race by a sharp trainer.
Yeah, exactly. Moving back up, though, in class, off the claim, and over a distance that, yeah, she's handled it before, but it really might not be her best, Dan. And also in a race with a lot of speed surrounding her. And here, I thought just a horse who I feel like should be a big price and is a big price on the morning line.
The number 3 is American Band. She's a lightly raced mare. She's won 4 of 7 lifetime starts. It's interesting that John Ortiz, who had her for her career debut, ran her a 1-turn mile right out of the box, and she was claimed by Steve Asmussen out of that race. Since then, they focused exclusively sprinting, including this victory last time out on January the 12th. And in this race, Mike, she looked like she was out-sprinted a bit behind a solid pace, but once she gets rolling in the stretch, she grinds it out, and the runner-up would come back to win a quarter condition claimer with a 74 buyer.
Yeah, she's going to get the job done here. The trip works out for her, and she does wind up just being better than these horses at the end. And I get it. It's a career best figure for her, an 83 that makes her really competitive in this race, Dan. But, we already talked about there's a lot working against this horse. Stretching back out, moving up in class here. She's very popular at the claim box, obviously, but she probably wants to be forward in this race, and this pace could be fast. I don't know. I mean, maybe she'll just win right back. I'm not taking 5-2.
A 2.5-month layoff for the number 4, Make Me Believe, who scored around 2 turns, 2 starts back at Delaware in a first level allowance, then faced 2 next out winners down at Oaklawn in her final start of 2023. And the 4th place finisher from that race, Mike, came back to win a first level allowance here with an 88 buyer.
I like her recent form for this trainer, especially. She's a little slow on the way into this, Dan, so it does kind of feel like she's not only going to need a trip in this race, but she might need one of these horses to the outside to just not show up with their best performance. But I like the form that she's in. I think there's a good trip coming.
Mike, you're familiar with the 5, Paris Style, from her prior exploits up in New York, where she was a maiden winner going a 1-turn mile, 3 starts back. She was wired over a sloppy track at Oaklawn last time out. She'd get more to run at from a pace perspective here.
Yeah, I can see her. This is a kind of filly who could get a good trip in this race as well. And maybe that will be all it takes. I mean, she's right on the cusp of being really tough for these horses. Dan, I do think McPeak's found a good spot for her here. And I don't think she's any kind of a superstar, but I can see things working out the right way for her here. I would just wait and see what kind of price she is. The 6-1 to me seems fair. I don't know if you're going to get it.
I wonder if the number 6, Too Pretty, used her last race. Her first start off of a lengthy layoff sprinting is merely a prep. And just looking at the running line, it looks like she likely gained a lot of fitness for a pretty sharp trainer in Dan Pites, showing speed, tiring, now stretching out. All three of her prior wins have come around 2 turns. And the horse that beat her last time out, it's a pretty good Arkansas bred. Came back to place in a stake with a 75 buyer.
I looked at her the same way, Dan. I mean, I think she's just better going longer anyway. They do sprint her quite often, but I think she's better going longer. We've seen this from her before too. Her first start of 2022, they went sprinter route second off the layoff, and she won from just off the pace that day. I think this is what she really wants to do. She kind of feels like she wants to be involved early, and I guess that could work against her here. But if she falls into the right kind of a trip, she can be effective in this race, and she's a big price on the line.
My is the number 7. It's possible we've yet to see the best from this lightly raced 4-year-old filly who was wired last time out in a slow-paced 2-turn race at Remington Park. Can have to run off the bench here, but from a class standpoint, maybe she fits. The horse that beat her last time out came back to run second at a stake at Remington with a 72 buyer.
Be interesting to see how much she can improve, I guess, in this race, Dan, because the win 3 starts back in October was when they dropped her into a 2 life claimer and she just got the job done there. They tried to move her up for her next 2 starts and she just really wasn't competitive at either time.
Illinois bred number 8, Galeb's Ranger, is the kind of horse that would appreciate a fast pace up front. To me, it's all about whether she classes up with these horses. Her major wins have either come against Illinois breds or against weaker allowance horses at FanDuel. She's going to have to deal with a little bit of a layoff here. But although this barn is going slow right now at the meet, you got to respect a lot of the horses they put onto the track. And again, the race flow might suffice.
Yeah, Becker knows what he's doing. We'll see if they can sort of turn it around here. I just wonder if this horse really classes up, Dan. And you also, I think it's fair to wonder how far she wants to go. They've only stretched her out once. It didn't work out.
Insensitive returned from Keeneland to Oaklawn and scored 2 starts back in a maiden special weight, and then ran in this race her first start against winners back on February the 11th. She was wired in a slow-paced race. They went 49-2 over the sealed sloppy track. Insensitive tried to get into it with a 4-wide bid turning for home, but this chalk on the lead just had everything her own way. I thought it was another good performance for a filly. It seems to be figuring it out.
Agreed. She runs fine in here, and I think a really good performance for second, actually. And then you go back to the race 2 starts back where she wins. She pairs up the figure in this race we're watching right now. Headed the right way, has the right running style for this race. She just makes a ton of sense in here.
Xylophone is the number 10, another horse that could get the right pace set up, as she did in her most recent start, her first run of the year, a race we're going to take a look at right now. And Xylophone is a veteran. She's solid. She's won 6 races. She's going to try to come widest and fastest off this hot pace, and she just misses.
Yeah, just misses it. We've seen this from her before, though. So there are a bunch of races on the go back for her where she gets there at the end and then doesn't get the win, settles for a lot of seconds in her career. But listen, her best race makes her really, really tough in here. She also likes the wet track if those conditions prevail.
The number 11, Flashy Lass, has bounced around some top barns, went from Brad Cox to Ron Moquette. This will be her first run for trainer Steve Asmussen after catching slop in her last 2 runs, and maybe she's just not as effective on a wet track as she is on fast going. You go back to her last 2 faster tries, you get a maiden win at Keeneland and then a score at Remington.
I think that's a very fair way to look at her, Dan. Getting back over fast dirt could make the difference if this track is fast and she's lightly raced for a really good trainer. She's already fast enough to win this race anyway. Feels like there could be a good trip coming. I didn't see her being 6-1 that the morning line has her pegged at, but if she is, that's a great price.
My Good Fortune is the final horse in the body of the race. The number 12 is going to have to work out a trip from an outside post, but she has the right running style. I'd assume Rafael Bejarano is just going to drop back, try to save as much ground going into the first turn, then hope for a fast pace and a clear trip. She didn't really get that pace in a sloppy track race last time out, but Insensitive ran on while My Good Fortune was just a little bit even.
Yeah, didn't run as well as Insensitive last time, but I don't know, Jericho, how much you want to hold it against her. I thought each of her prior couple of races, 2 or 3, I think they would give her a real chance in here if she can work out a trip from the outside.
Another horse that caught wet tracks in her last 2 and has won her prior 2 fast dirt outings. 13 and 14 are also eligibles. I guess if I had to pick one of the 2, the 14 Lacey Be Good's interesting if she gets into this race, winning at Delta last time out in a 2-turn 7/8 of a mile race with a respectable figure.
She's on a real roll right now, that horse. She definitely a horse you want to take a second look at if she gets in, if she looks for 5 in a row.
Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Let's take a look at our top picks for our Thursday race of the day at Oaklawn Park. You're going with Too Pretty, going to try to repeat the pattern that worked last year. Can't pass that price on the morning line.
Yeah, I'm just hoping she gets the right trip in here, Dan. She's going to need it if she's going to beat this field, because I think there are some horses drawn to the outside that just might be better than her, all things being equal. But if she gets the right trip in here, she's got a race in her that would make her competitive.
The 9 Insensitive looks like she's getting to her best right now. Her third start back this year off 2 solid efforts, and she might get a better race flow than last time out where she was wired in a slow-paced heat. 6-11-12-9 for Mike, 9-3-5-10 for me. It's Thursday's DRF race of the day. It's the 8th at Oaklawn Park. Best of luck.